Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Wednesday, July 8th, 4:30. And wow, what a fascinating day! Today was pretty remarkable. We had SPY finish up, 0.75%, perfectly fine. Q's outperformance once again up 1.3% for the session. Small caps hung in there as well. They finished up right where the SPY did, up 0.75%. They've been the lagging group, but today they did okay. Bonds, which were really strong today, they came back a little bit from the open, but still finished down for the day, down 40 basis points. Gold, still very strong again. And the VIX, which was all over the place, at one point touched above 30, which I had mentioned on Twitter, closed back at 28. And pretty decent end of day ramp that we saw today. One of the things that I've been talking about for a while is that the overnight session typically is where you make the majority of your money. That's where the alpha is made. But today you had a nice move, right? Basically, a little bit of a trending day, and especially in the growth names. I didn't even list the option activity today because it was literally, they were running so hot in the first, hour or so. And, I think there was a little bit of bad news on the tape, about the WHO came out with some findings about COVID. Does this really matter anymore at this point that they're saying that it's more contagious than they originally thought? I don't know. It seems like these guys have been kind of behind behind this move the whole time in the COVID stuff. But in any event, it was a little bit, back and forth price action a little bit for the S&P, but it turned out nice. There must have been a buy program, I guess, at the end of the day, which kind of pushed everything up. But really, really strong performance in the growth names again. I talked about in yesterday's video was a little bit more negative, looking at the price action and maybe a little bit of the selling going into the close yesterday. And I'll tell you, here's the comment that I put in the room earlier was, it's funny because I wasn't expecting much today, and coming in with pretty neutral mindset. I did say that in the beginning of the day that it was going to be kind of an interesting day. But we continue, in our trading room, in the Tribeca Trade Group room, we find the trades. I mean, we use a combination of, I do my homework, obviously, overnight, and just thought that, hey, if these growth names are going to continue to run, some of them have been consolidating, for a couple days. So I went through that kind of last night in my chart study, and also saw the strength in the gold miners too, which that continued today. But we do our homework, and so it's a combination of technicals, and then we just saw a lot of call buying on on the first couple of hours of the day, and then just basically throughout the session. I mean, the option activity is just crazy. So the question is, I think what's on everybody's mind, I mean, and if you just go through these names, it was just remarkable. And this isn't even all of it because I don't post every single order in here, but just a plentiful amount of names that are seeing call activity. Just a lot of. Octa was something that kind of was on my radar anyway for the day, but you could have went into just a handful of names. SE was one of the names that I was looking at, that I traded yesterday and dumped on the close yesterday. But I mean, there's just a handful of names more than a handful of names, but a variety of names in growth that excelled very much. So you didn't have to be picky. For that. And I was just actually going over this ETF. There was a member that brought this ETF to my attention a couple weeks ago. XITK. I know that's a tough ticker to remember, so maybe write it down. But I'll tell you, this is the growth ETF, and this is called, by the way, Innovative Tech. So when you look to see what's in this thing, and then we'll talk about the S&P and so forth. Why can't I bring this thing over here? What's wrong with this Bloomberg screen? That's fine. Doesn't want to work. Doesn't want to cooperate. Let me try that one more time. There we go. But if you look at what's in this thing, these are all names that, if you go through these charts one by one, you've of course got this SE in here. Zoom Video, we all know that's had amazing growth. Docu has been amazing. Shop, all these names have been amazing. So this is called Innovative Tech. This is one of the, most interesting ETFs I've seen before that have kind of captured all the strength in these names. MDB is in here, Vive, and like half of these names saw call activity. No joke today. And it just kind of continued. Team is another one, IPHI, SADJ, which the solar names were super hot today. I don't know what the catalyst was for the solar names. Doesn't matter. But they were up 4.7% for the day. The Chinese internets were up another 4.7%. Talk about a hot group. This started with Baba. Remember, I went over all those names. I was kind of like in yesterday's video talking about, oh, I feel like I kind of chased Baba because I added it into my tactical portfolio. And look at this thing today. And that's why sometimes it pays attention. You pay attention to these ranges. When a name gets out of a range, it could get pretty exciting. So, I mean, unbelievable. The changes that I made, and this is pretty sick. So Alibaba, I added KL, which is Kirkland Lake Gold, was up 7.7%. Here's how this portfolio performed today, up 2.3% with the S&P up 75 basis points. I did take some profits. I didn't remove Shop and Square and so forth. But look at CrowdStrike was up 7% today too. So I try to kind of make this a little bit more defensive by putting in things like Kirkland Lake and Barrick Gold, and Barrick Gold was up 2.5% today too. Even NEE, which is a utility, was up 2.5% today too. So again, really pleased at how this portfolio is going. Again, that's more of a trend following equity only portfolio, so I'm kind of like hitting things on all cylinders. My P&L for my trading account is back at 2020 highs, and just continue to roll. And I think one of the things that's helped me is just being objective every day. Like, even though, like I'll complain sometimes in these end of day videos, like I don't like the price action, and we're probably due for a pullback, and I don't do a lot of positioning unless I get like a signal, right? So today was just a beautiful day, and I really kind of stepped on the gas a little bit in terms of trading. If you look at my trades for the day, when I see that there's momentum on the tape, the last couple of days you could see the difference. Most of my trades you could see basically just on Monday, Tuesday, not a lot of trades. I mentioned I kind of messed a couple things up yesterday. But look at how much more I traded today. Zynga was a nice trade that I was holding. Um, let's kind of we'll look at some of these charts. I mean, there's a lot of, this was a really nice setup that was a member uh, trade idea about a week and a half ago. So that's Zynga. Okta, like I said, we saw some calls, and I was looking for something in this space, but closed on the absolute highs. I put this one out on Twitter as well for a trade idea. This thing closed at basically 220. I took this thing off. I was happy with it. I took this thing off at close to my upper target, which was 219. I got out right at, or I said 220 was my upper target. 220 I got from. Well, there's 225 is another level, but I think I got that off the 1 hour. Maybe I didn't. Maybe it's 225 was my upside target, but that was enough for the day, for a day trade. So yeah, and then the Chinese internet names, you could basically you know just pick any one of these names. They've had, and they continue to have a lot of momentum to them. I was making a little bit of joke earlier about that they were buying, just like they did the other day. I was talking about this with Baidu on Monday. They bought Baidu, like these call buyers. I don't know. Like I go back to, like, they're not smart money. It's just momentum call buying. They bought Baidu the other day on the high of the day. Now they're still underwater in those calls, but they did the same thing with JD today too. So I've been in JD. I've got it on in two different places. I've got it on my trading account, and I've got it on in the tactical portfolio. You could see in here, which I did take a target in it too, but JD should be in here. And yeah, this was up 5.6%. So and they were buying calls on the highs again. So it could work for them, but what are they doing? Like, who buys calls? After a name is up 5-6% for the day now, because this setup has been materializing for days and has looked pretty good, but I just don't understand why people refer to this stuff as smart money when they're buying calls and, here's your signal. Or here, or even, here yesterday was even better. But they're going to buy it here? Like, that's not smart money. I mean, some of the call buying. I'll show you the calls, the call activity in this today. But again, if you do your homework, and that's why, I think the membership, if you're a member, pays for itself because, we do the homework. I do the homework for you and get you into some of these setups before the option activity. And that's the whole goal of this. This is at 11 o'clock. They're buying calls here. All right, big, opening trade, $290,000 of premium. So, it is what it is. Data Dog. A couple members, like, some of the members in the room today were absolutely on fire. It's not that I want to play a name like that is up this much, but if a name's going to go up 6.7%, I played this one a couple times today and worked out really, really well. And that's the beauty of when you have momentum in the market. I do like to hold positions overnight because I'm a swing trader and that's where the money's made. But when you have momentum in the market like you had today, it was nice to be able to kind of, day trade and come in. I've been scaling out of positions and kind of waiting because I do think, that the Q sentiment, which I talked about yesterday, is like a 93, the daily sentiment index. It's very, very hot. But like I said, you could have said that 2 weeks ago too. So you just kind of have to be smart. I think the word that I keep coming back to regarding positioning is smart, meaning just taking profits along the way, continuing to participate, and just at this point, like messing with profits, not putting that much on the line, and that has worked for the last couple months. Doing that, and so again, I'm very pleased that we're continue to see this kind of rolling bull market. I wanted to talk about. Forgot to do something today. But nevertheless, one of the things that I would start to think about a little bit. What else did I want to talk? I wanted to talk about a couple other things today. But again, these are my trades. I was trading a little bit of Facebook today too, which was a nice scalp. MRVL. I wanted to go over a couple other charts that I thought were interesting. This Maxim looks interesting. Somebody bought next week's calls. Again, really short-term stuff that some of them are buying. But this thing looks pretty interesting. Here was the VPOC takeout, and since then it did what the majority of VPOCs take out is it basically faded after this. But the price has now returned back to the scene of the crime and kind of looks pretty interesting, this Maxim for a breakout. So interesting call buyer at the end of the day in that one. What else did we see in terms of call activity, just to kind of give you a flavor for some other things that we saw? TME, which is, again, I think it can get to, I took two targets. I'm wearing the last piece of this, but I think this can get to this VPOC up here at 1772. That's where I'm looking to take my last target and in that name. What else besides for option activity did we see? MDB is another one where we set this one up too. Again, Tribeca Trade Group member brought this to my attention, but again, it looks good coming out of consolidation. Look how it butted up against top of value for a couple days, and then it broke out of value, and you got a nice target up here at 236. So I did force a target at the end of the day because I am being very cognizant about how I want to kind of position at this point. And I'm okay with, again, just kind of making sure that I've got a big cash balance, just in case we do get a dip. And even so, from yesterday's video, I said, hey, this little dip that we got yesterday, you could see it. It brings the buyers out. So not even like a major dip in the market. So it really helps to have cash on the sidelines for even these little dips. One of the things I was just going to leave with for the day is at this point, I talked about this at some point today. I think it was in the pre-market session today that we do every day at 9 o'clock at Tribeca Trade Group to kind of get ready for the day. Right, and here's some of the setups that I put together this morning. EVBG, we were talking about SE, really nice one in this one. And then, of course, my watch list for this morning. Where was that this morning? Yeah, I had JD at PDD, KL, ServiceNow. So, what I'm thinking for the next coming weeks is things that have been pretty beaten up that would cause basically any good news. I think this pen is at an interesting level. Nice hammer bar, the 50-day moving average. Also, a member brought this one to my attention today too. I think if this gets above 29.31, which is very close to that level, pen could see a bounce. But if you look at any of the financials, they're so at this point washed out. Also, 29.02 is a level for pen. They are so washed out at this point that any good news can maybe cause a little bit of a rotation into. J.P. Morgan was one of the names on the watch list that I had that I talked about. Let's see how this is doing for the week. Sorry, one second. Yeah, pretty good start for the watch list for the week. Here's the watch list that we put together. So one of the worst names on the list, I think, is J.P. Morgan, which I think where is J.P. Morgan on here? Why don't I see it? Yeah, so I put one name that could maybe see a bounce for the week, but it's again like I think these financials are so underloved. I mean, it is sitting on support here, so I think having a little bit of exposure, and that's what's nice about the option market is you could put in, you could put on a trade that is not going to um, take up that much capital for something that bounces because this group is probably due for a bounce at some point, right? Again, I'm not looking for a trend reversal out of this group, but I think that if you look at value versus growth, right, there are times, and this is small caps, this is growth versus value. I've got small cap growth in the numerator, small cap value in the denominator. This has been on one hell of a run since mid-June. So again, I'm expecting at some point a little bit of bounce in these value names, and something like J.P. Morgan or a Penn. National Gaming looks ripe to me for a bounce trade. All right, guys. So I'll leave it there. Again, awesome day all around. Again, for a day that I wasn't really expecting too much. Lovely day, and I think we really capitalized on it. And another name too, Costco had some great numbers after the close. This was a small trade that I put on, trading up at 319, 320 in the after hours. So good looking move there for one of the trades we put on yesterday. Have a great night, everybody, and see you tomorrow.